we have another Bright Work podcast, and with our partners at People Plus, and I thought it'd be really important to talk about the Kickstart program. So I'm really lucky to be joined by David.atlay, who manages the Kickstart program for People Plus. I've heard a lot about the Kickstart program. We've actually have a number of Kickstart candidates working through in the Bright Work team. But I thought it'd be really important to get that message across. So David manages this program. David.atlay, thank you very much for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
David, can you tell me, what is the background to the Kickstart program?
Yeah, well, Kickstart came about due to the pandemic, and it came about because the government realised really quickly that we've got a generation of young people, 16 to 24-year-olds, who need support. So Kickstart is the response to make sure these guys move into work. And what the government says to the employers, can you support with paid work placements to support people for 6 months to gain work experience? And the response has been phenomenal from employers, all sectors. Everyone can get involved, and everyone's doing their bit to support that group of people who, let's face it, they've been really heavily affected during the pandemic more than any other sector of the group.
And that was, I was kind of leading into this because, understanding a little bit of the effects of the pandemic, and that's a demographic and a group that's been particularly affected. Why do you think that? Why have they been so badly affected? Young people?
Yeah. So we've got, if you think about the age group, 16 to 24-year-olds, these are the generation that didn't get to take their exams. They've left school early, they were giving grades, we all know a bit of chaos around about that. Or they've moved into work, they've been furloughed for a year, may have only done a couple of months' work. And as you know, the world of work is more about than just work. It's all the things it gives you those social skills, it gives you that work ethic, how to work with colleagues, gives you an awful lot, a broader range of skills than the soft skills than just being employed. And that generation have missed out an awful lot on those skills. We hear about things, the health and well-being of that generation, and we need to give support. Personally, we're going to find employers, as we know, we look at the skills, we look at skill sets, we've got to meet person specs. Yeah. Some people have that. And really, the employers can give them those skills.
So this is about giving them, so this isn't just necessarily only about taking somebody on and giving them a job for the next 10 years. This is about giving them the skills that can maybe help them move on to their next role and start their career.
Oh, definitely. This is about, for me, Kickstart isn't just about how the first person comes through the door gets the job. Kickstart is about matching the person, the qualities of that person that you want to employ, that you see as being vital to your sectors. And you employ the right person like you would for any job, and you'll get out of it. And you'll find out these people, they want to work, they want to learn about the industry, and we can support them to have a really bright future going forwards.
Wow, that's a lot more depth and knowledge than I ever had. So, David, thank you very much. So what's the criteria then for taking part in this program? What do you need to have?
Yeah, so Kickstart, it's funded. It's actually funded by the government, and it's to create a 6-month work placement for young people 16 to 24. For that work placement, the government will cover 100% of the wage, even national insurance contributions and pension payments. So it has to be for 25 hours per week, and it has to be national minimum wage age related. If they want someone for 40 hours a week, they want to pay them a little bit extra, that's fine, but the government will only ever reimburse 25 hours at national minimum wage. So simple criteria, you create the opportunity, and when we talk about creating an opportunity, we're not replacing existing staff or our planned recruitment, we're creating new opportunities that will sit above your planned recruitment.
So it's over and above what you actually have.
Yeah. So if you've got 5 vacancies this year, you carry on recruiting those 5 people, and your Kickstart people sit above them.
And so if I'm just thinking out loud here, what kind of roles then would you have seen? What kind of roles are some of these young people going into with
Yeah. So we've got such a broad range of roles. Our standard, we've got our production, we've got our construction, but we've got actually marketing roles for bespoke companies based in central London who deal with high-level brands. And these vacancies would have normally been with interns, but they've seen, the market for interns has dropped, and they want to give opportunities to people that they would never looked at normally. And then we've got, I'll tell you what, we do have an awful lot of. Companies realised during the pandemic that our social media platforms weren't really that good and weren't really effective.
Yeah.
They've actually taken on an awful lot of young people to do social media, digital social media, and suddenly they're putting websites together. They're looking at the platforms, they're promoting businesses via all the things I've never heard of. That you can think of. And some of the hospitality industries says, wow, didn't know this was here. But you know what? It really reflects some of the skills. People might have qualifications to do them, but they've got the skills. And there's loads of opportunities. But let's talk about why the opportunities, what employers can actually do and what else they receive. So an employer is not only going to get the wages for 6 months reimbursed, they're also going to get, as soon as somebody starts, a £1,500 grant paid to them to develop the young person. Now, obviously, we've always with a bit of funding, there's eligibility expenditure. But what it's done is supporting that young person to gain the skills to be productive in the workplace. So, first of all, they need employability skills. People Plus will support employability skills. And we will supply things like a Kickstart coach, health and well-being. But the £1,500 can also be used for any bespoke training. So if you felt someone needed some customer service skills or Microsoft skills or production operative or warehouse skills, the money can be used for that. It can also be used for IT equipment. So if you bring someone into your office and they need a new laptop, some software, you can use the grant to pay for that. Other things can be used for uniform, PPE. So any expenditure you may have for employing someone, you can use the £1,500 for.
So really, really broad then, that loads of different things.
Yeah, it's a win-win situation. You're helping someone, you get the government's reimbursing all the costs, and you know what? You might actually find that one gem of an employer, you're going to give them a job. Then that's the goal. That's the goal, to get people into work. But you know what? If they're not going to achieve employment with yourselves because you've got no opportunities, People Plus will support them to gain employment. We'll update these for them. We'll make sure we'll try and hope they don't go back to the job centre and actually move in.
So it's really, really broad, and you've talked about some of the different types of employment that people, these Kickstart workers, I suppose, get into. So it's like, it can be a small business, large multinational business. It's just really, really wide.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm dealing with a company who's got 900 staff on one site, and I'm dealing with a takeaway who's got 2 members of staff. You know what? We give the same level of service to everybody.
I suppose then that's kind of like, so can you how would you engage? What do you, with People Plus? I mean, so I'm thinking here, it's a great idea. There's a socially responsible aspect to helping young people. Hard time. And the second thing is it's funded. So actually you're not having to from a financial perspective, it just makes sense. Commercial, social, everything kind of fits in from a business.
Yeah, and it really does. And the government's made this really, really easy for people. If you think about in the past, the government would have put a program together, young people would have joined it, they've received employability training, we would have looked for employment for them, and they'd have been sent for an interview. What the government is saying is, no, let's actually take these people on initially, the employment support training whilst we're in work, but they're gaining meaningful work experience. So at the end of the 6 months, either they're going to be the ideal employee, or we're going to support them into alternative employment.
Sounds great. Sounds great. So tell me then a little bit about People Plus. So what do we need, if I was an employer, how's this going to work for me? What do we need to do?
Yeah, so the way the process works is we would send an employer and employability pack, and they would just state all their details about the size of the business, how many Kickstart people want, the job descriptions, etc. And we will write and submit your application for you. And we do have a nominal fee of £150 to do that. Once your application is submitted, we then return the job descriptions to Job Centre Plus, and then it will be marketed locally with the Job Centre. And the Job Centre will send ideal candidates for yourself as an employer to interview. So the employer has the final say as to who they're going to employ.
Okay.
The jobs and us, we will not send people along just to start because you've got Kickstart grant. Mm-hmm. You will interview and you will state, yes, that is the person I want. Once you agree that's the person you want, you notify JCP, and you receive, when they start, you receive your £1,500 grant, and then you receive a further 6 monthly payments to cover their wages.
It sounds really, really straightforward. It sounds really, really simple. It sounds like a great way to help.
Wow, really is. And People Plus are there all the way to support the employers and also the participants. So one thing will do is we'll provide a Kickstart coach. Yeah. We'll provide health and wellbeing support. Mm-hmm. And this take away any of the issues you may have with that young person. We'll deal with them for you, and we'll make sure you get a really, really good person.
That sounds brilliant. Okay, I think what we need to do then is we'll get all your contact details on this podcast, so people can follow it. But how would be the best way of getting in touch, David?
Yeah, just drop me an email, give me a call. I'll send the pack out to you. It'll explain everything that we do. The pack's really easy to fill in. It's just that I need some information such as registered company name, etc. And we just submit your application for you. Then you'll get your reference number, and in about a couple of weeks, Job Centre will be in touch, and you'll get confirmation of your grant.
Okay.
So, process.
Fantastic. David Atlay, a really, really interesting chat, and a really important one. But again, just for any of the listeners and anybody watching, there's the scheme is here to be taken advantage of, I suppose, but it's about helping young people. Yeah. I suppose it's a responsibility as anyone that's working in business, to maybe look at their how their planned recruitment is over and above that, how they can support people. And again, funding's there, so it doesn't seem like there's going to be a financially.
No fund.
Yeah. Okay, David Atlay from People Plus, thank you so much for joining me today on the Bright Podcast.
Thank you.